So here at You and Me Ranch, we run our sheep on pasture 365 days a year. We practice what we call lean grazing, similar to adaptive grazing. It's just our version of it. We utilize electric sheep net with a good strong charger. We don't have any handling equipment. We don't really use a lot of medications and antibiotics and wormers, and we don't tend to feed any kind of grain or anything like that for the most part. It's just all forage based, and we typically are able to do that year round. Last year we fed about a half a bale towards the end of winter, but for the most part we are just running on forage. And most of our property unfortunately doesn't have too many trees on it, so in the summertime we are forced to just for the sheep, the benefit of the sheep and making sure they don't get too hot, we're forced to find some shady areas for them. So we got to get a little bit creative. We're in southeast Missouri and it gets really hot and humid. The cliche, it's the humidity that'll get you. Well, it's true, man, I tell you. Today it's 91 degrees, I think, something like that, maybe a little bit warmer than that, but it doesn't feel too bad because the humidity is not too bad. Yesterday and the day before, you know, it was a little bit warmer than that, but it felt like it was twice as hot. Felt like you were gonna die if you stayed outside too long. But your glasses fog up as soon as you step out the front door. It's not really like that today, so even though it's over 90 degrees, it doesn't feel too bad. But I had made some short videos. I don't think I really made a full-length video about it, but just showing the amount of trampling that you can get when you do some tight lanes with your sheep over a short period of time. And this is the area that I made those videos, and I mean, it was trampled down. It was pretty dramatic. There was really nothing left over here, but probably mostly due to the rain, since we've had actual rainfall this year. The last few years we had almost none. You know, middle of spring the rain just stopped and it was just a dead drought. It was pretty awful. But we've gotten quite a bit of rain, and just with the thickness and the soil health from running the sheep here and just taking better care of the soil and taking better care of the ground, I mean, look at this, it's all growing back. I could see brown all through this lane right here. And that wasn't very long ago. That was just probably a few weeks ago, a month ago. I don't even know if it was that long, but it's all growing back. You know, it's amazing to see this, because when we first moved here, I mean, there was more bare dirt than there was grass showing. You can have a huge impact on the land in a very short amount of time, and just think how much carbon is being pulled out of the air and sunk down into the ground where it belongs. You know, Bill Gates wants to cut down trees. Meanwhile, we're over here pulling carbon out of the air and putting it into the ground. We need more people doing that. We need more family farms doing it properly, and less solar farms, if you ask me. And this area here, the sheep were in here just a week or two ago, and look at this. I'm not kidding. We grazed this area a couple weeks ago, and look at that, it's already grown back. I'll tell you what, it was not like this when we first moved in here. I mean, you were lucky to get the grass to grow back once after cutting it. And for anybody that watches our short videos, I made a bunch showcasing this spot. So this is from a week ago or so. And this little spot's looking awesome. They took all this stuff down. It's mostly, under here was mostly poison ivy and Johnson grass and just weeds, but it was really, really tall. So I didn't have to come in here and chop this down. The sheep did it for me. All right, now we got the ewes right here. This is just a small temporary paddock for the afternoon. The shade's moved around a little bit on the girls, So I'm getting ready to set up a new paddock for them. And we still got one expectant ewe in here. Where's she at? Where you at, Heart? There she is. How you doing, Heart? Call her Heart because she's got a little heart shape on her side. How you doing, Heart girl? Yeah, she's expecting. There's Betty's. One of Betty's twins. Hi, Spring. She's real sweet. She is so friendly. Look at this thing. It's a little Spring Roll. How you doing, Spring Roll? Man, you've been chowing, huh? There was a lot of clover in here. Yep. All right. I'm going to set you guys up a paddock that has some more shade in it. All right, so there was yesterday's paddock. Now they're probably here for a day and a half, I'd say. But with the thickness of this grass, we had a big storm last night and the day before too. And usually this area ends up just mud. Just mud. But look at, you can just barely see a little bit of dirt through here. But for the most part, they were on top of this grass. That's how good this grass is now. I mean, there's not even a bare, even right here, it's not actually bare. It's just cut short because this is where they scratched it up and ate the most. But take a look at this. It's just a giant carpet of grass. And like I said, this usually ends up just a muddy mess when it rains and the sheep are in here especially. Not this time though. So, and they had access to this tree, so they were going back and forth from that grassy spot to this tree here. That was their shade. And man, look at all the clover over here. This is nuts. There's so much clover. It's awesome. Most of you probably know, if you're watching a channel like this, about clover and its abilities to pull nitrogen out of the air and put it down into the soil. And it's such an interesting thing, the relationship that all the different microbes have with the plants. You know, even the plants have commerce, so even the plants have conservative values. They trade one thing for something else that they need. So the microbes need something that the plants give them, and the plants need something that the microbes get from the nitrogen that the plant's pulling out of the air. So the microbes are taking that nitrogen and spitting it back out into something that's useful to the plant. So it's a trade. It's pretty awesome. They all work together. Such a balance. God created things perfectly and we just come along and mess things up, don't we? But this is, I'm going to connect the ewes' current paddock right here to this one, so they'll have this shade, all that clover. I didn't want them too thick in the clover because I don't want them to get too bloated, but luckily it's not morning right now, and a lot of this clover has started to go to seed a little bit. So watching Mr. Greg Judy, and he had a good pointer the other day that when your clover is going to seed a little bit, it's less likely to cause a lot of bloat. And with the sheep, I'm not too worried about it anyways. Man, there are bumblebees everywhere. How awesome. Absolutely awesome. All right, let's get these sheep over here. Hey girls, hey girls, come on girls. All right. There you go, Spring. So as you guys can see, I'm really liking these lanes. Lanes is the way. This is how I get the most even graze, the most even manure spread. And they tend to like dig their little mud holes less when they have more of a lane. If you give them like a big circle, they tend to have their spots that they lay down and they just keep scratching it up and making these giant mud holes. When you give them a lane, they have less of that going on. So that's the best tip that I got for you guys lately is lanes, you know, not too narrow of a lane, but a lane seems to be better with the sheep than just having a big giant square or a big old circle, because they just tend to scratch it all up and you get a really uneven graze out of them. But if you give them a lane, you know, even if they're spending a day in that lane, if you give them enough ground, that's going to get you the most even graze from what I've found with sheep anyways. I don't know about cattle, but that's what these guys like. If you guys got any feedback on that, if you guys got any pointers that you think people should try or that you want me to try, please leave me a comment. And make sure you guys like the video, share it, subscribe to our channel so you can make sure you get notifications when we make more videos. Got Boops here. She's about the most tame one that we got, her and Joy right there. Betty's twin ewe lamb over there, she's real friendly. She's about the friendliest one lately. As soon as she sees or hears me out here, she just starts hollering, runs up to the fence. So she likes to get pet. And we like our friendly sheep. Since we're out here on pasture with the sheep net and we don't have handling equipment, you really need your sheep to be pretty tame. The ones that aren't tame, you know, if something does happen, if they were to get out or if they were needed treatment of some kind, it can be a real challenge to catch them and get them treatment. We always seem to catch them if we really need to, but for the most part we don't really need to do that. You know, we move them every day, sometimes twice a day depending, sometimes even 3 times a day, but not usually. And that keeps down on the parasite load for everybody. And they seem to be pretty resistant to any issues anyways. The only issues that they ever have is, you know, just like anything, they're out here with the mosquitoes and the ticks. Sometimes they do get a little bit of a runny behind depending on how the forage changes and how waterlogged everything is, but we just give them a little baking soda, move them onto a drier spot, maybe give them a little bit of dry hay if we think they need it, and they usually don't have any issues for more than a day. If you guys haven't seen Greg Judy's YouTube channel, you got to check his out. You know, I started watching his YouTube channel before we ever moved out here. So we moved out here from Washington State, and I didn't know anything really about farming and ranching and livestock. And I started getting curious, and I found some Greg Judy and a few others. And man, he's just so full of knowledge. I started watching everything of his. I had a broken ankle, and so I was sitting watching YouTube for a while, and I soaked up everything I could from him and learned quite a bit. He probably don't know who I am, but I really appreciate his channel for everything that I've learned from him. So shout out to Greg. If you do happen to watch this channel, Greg, we appreciate you. Learned a lot from you. And you know, I don't know if I would have got into doing this stuff, and I definitely wouldn't have had a clue on where to start if it hadn't have been for him. He gave me some really good pointers. And it's funny that I ended up in Missouri, of all places, because that's where he's at too. We're not near each other, but he's somewhere around here, central Missouri. I'm in southeast Missouri. But that's funny how that worked out. But shout out to Greg. You guys should check out his channel. Speaking of listening to people on YouTube or anywhere else, you know, one of the things I first noticed about Greg Judy is he seems to definitely be a God-fearing man. And Bible says fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So you got to be real careful of people who declare that they're wise in their own eyes, because they can definitely lead you astray. But I wouldn't say Greg Judy is of that brand. He seems to be pretty wise, and I've learned a lot from him. Check this out. We got chicory growing all through here, which is pretty neat. Now, we've been mowing most of this little area right here. But we got some chicory coming up, and I think this might be from that little bit that we planted that never came up. We had one plant come up, but we got some coming up in several different spots now. So I'm assuming it's from that little bit that we planted, but I don't know. And this side, I haven't been mowing at all. And last year at this time, this was just brown. Brown, and I could see the dirt sticking through the grass everywhere. And it was all to seed and just browned out. And this year it's just absolutely green. And there's some chicory, and there's just lots of stuff growing over here. So it's just awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. The only thing we've done over here is run the sheep and mow, and tried to not keep it too short for too long. And it has improved so much, this spot specifically. The other thing I notice is the water infiltration. We don't have standing water for more than a couple hours, it seems like now, whereas before it would hang out for a week and there was just mud everywhere. That's the biggest change, that and the thickness of the grass in this short amount of time, guys. It's insane. So if you really are interested in improving a piece of ground, sheep are definitely a great option. You know, they're awesome. But they're not the only option. Cows would work probably a lot quicker, I would think, because they're going to have a lot more impact on the ground. But I would think you would want handling equipment for those. I don't think we're quite ready for that yet. The sheep are a bit of a handful at times, so we'll stick to that for now. But eventually we might get some cattle. Now that it's summertime, we've been utilizing our tree line. And the cool thing about that is the sheep are really going to help you clear a lot of this out. You know, so if you have some areas that you wanted some help clearing out a little bit, just to make it a little bit easier for you to get in there, the sheep will definitely help to do that. Each one of these paddocks was just one day. And I'll kind of show you. I mean, this stuff was so thick you couldn't really walk through here. But as you can see, they cleared it out pretty good. And I mean, you could obviously go ahead and just do this with a weed whacker or something, or a brush hog, but we don't have a brush hog. And this does make your weed whacking a little bit easier, because it kind of helps me to see what I want to chop and what I don't want to chop. So probably when it cools down, I am going to come back in here and chop a lot of this small stuff down. And this will make this area just a lot nicer. But I can always count on an area like that in the summertime to help keep the sheep a little bit cooler. Because, you know, if you can't stand it outside for more than a few minutes, you can't really expect the sheep to stand out in that all day long. They got to have some shade. So, and the other cool thing that I can update you guys on is our neighbor on this side. Well, this is our property line right here, this tree line. But I got to meet our neighbors the other day, and really nice people. I was just checking on them because I heard some hollering, and I heard a tractor running. I thought maybe somebody was hurt or needed some kind of help over here. So I came over here to check on them, and they were just fine. But the really cool thing is they offered to let us run our sheep over here. So I can kind of go over there and show you guys that little chunk of property. It's pretty neat. Now, walking through all this stuff, because I've had the sheep in here, walking through all this stuff, I mean, this is tick country big time. So here's our old fence. I don't know how old this fence is, but it's knocked down in a lot of places. But this right here is basically just a deer trail too. So just right in the middle here, it stays pretty cleared out because we got lots of deer that come through here. But one of the main problems with trying to run your sheep in something like this is you really got to protect yourself against the bugs, the ticks, and the mosquitoes. And we've had more rain this year, I believe, than we've had since we moved here, which is awesome. All right, so just as I said, I just moved the one side to give us a new lane here. I want to show you how small this lane is. So this little spot here, this is where they were at. So this was the lane that they just came from. They don't seem to be too interested in eating these leaves here. They're probably just a little too bitter, but there's some good grass in here. And they are eating some of the little sapling leaves. But, you know, the goal for me, anytime I'm running the sheep in an area, especially if there's a lot of brush, is I don't want to give them too much space at one time, because really what's going to be beneficial for the land is basically to cram them in here, not quite as tight as you can. You know, I could have made just a little tiny lane, but then you're kind of asking for trouble. This gives them enough space to still move around and not get hung up in the fence for the most part. You know, they're animals, so sometimes they do goofy stuff. And you just got to deal with that as it comes. But if you make your lane too narrow, you're asking for trouble, because then you'll have 2 or 3 sheep trying to get by each other, and they're going to get caught up in this fence. But you know, this is basically one section wide, so it's pretty narrow, but it's also pretty long. So what they're going to do is they're going to walk back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, grazing. And they're going to trample and they're going to eat. And that's what you want. You want that animal impact on the ground. That's what's going to improve the ground. And also it's kind of getting them to eat more of the forage. So on a hot day, you know, you can get them to graze a little bit more diversely. They're not just going to want to pick one thing to eat and then go lay in the shade. They're more apt to graze on a more diverse diet of forage. So, and if they're not grazing on it that much, at least you know they're trampling it. And just getting that animal impact on the ground, it does wonders. That's really what you want. You want the hoof action. You want them to spread around their manure and their urine, their slobber, just everything. All of it's beneficial to the ground. And it'll be amazing to see what this place looks like after running the sheep across here, since it's been in CRP for so long. There is just so much stuff laying down on the ground in here. It's amazing. But after running the sheep through here, even just one time, it's going to be awesome. It's pretty exciting. This little spot, I don't know, it's probably like 20 acres down to the end over there, and then the county road's down there. Something like that. But that was awfully nice of them to offer their land for the sheep to graze on. There's a good look at the work that they do in a day, even in this real brushy stuff. The rams, they make quick work of stuff, man. They use dew on certain days, but on other days they seem to not get around as much. But these guys, man, they're a wrecking crew. So if you get a real brushy spot, oh yeah? If you get a real brushy spot, they're they're gonna do some quick work. It's awesome. You know, normally where you'd feel like you had to brush hog, you just make these lanes like this and you just keep going one way or the other with it, and they knock all this stuff back. So we're gonna keep at it. That's the plan all summer long. Make sure they got enough shade that they're not suffering. You know, it's nice and cool in this little spot right here. The weaned ram lambs here are doing really good. I haven't had any issue with them. None of them have tried to get out or anything since the day that we put them in here. So, and I free ran them a long ways across the field to get all the way over here to the house too. And that worked out really good. Just grabbed a grain bucket and we ran the whole way. Man, we were all huffing and puffing on that one. It was really hot. But I needed to get him in the shade, so it's worked out pretty good. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure and like and subscribe. Share the video. Share it with your friends. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you guys got any other tips that I haven't thought of for the heat and for the ticks. And I'll see you guys next time.